Hey, welcome to Friday, December 4th. This is the Fanzeal Week in Review. I'm Justin Simon. That's my colleague in crime, Brandon Boykin. We're happy to be here. We missed last week, obviously, with Thanksgiving, and I was full, and I'm fat, and I'm still fat, and I'm looking forward to getting back in the gym. I refuse to wait till my New Year's resolution. There was an amazing amount of food we ate last week, so much so that I feel like Joel Embiid, where I'm just gaining weight everywhere. But I'm not actually growing. I don't know if you saw the update. They remeasured the young man, and again, he's only 20 years old, 19 years old. He grew 2 inches. So when the Sixers drafted him, he was 7 foot tall. He's now 7'2". I'm going to try to get that to work for this weekend so that I can end up being 6'3". And of course, none of my clothes will fit, but which is fine because they don't anyway. Anyhow, everyone, welcome to the Fanzeal Week in Review. Every Friday, Brandon, Boykin, and I get together. We discuss what happened in the week. If you aren't sure, if you missed anything, go over to fanzeal.com. Check out the newsletter that comes out every Monday morning. It'll recap the funniest things, the best things, the craziest things, some of the hottest things, and the viral videos that you probably missed but wish you didn't. So head over there, check out fanzeal.com, or follow us at Fanzeal on Twitter. Brendan, a lot happened this week. We're going to get to Kobe because that's a huge story, but I want to start on the NFL. And actually, I'm going to start, even before we get to the NFL, just a quick update. A few minutes ago, Arizona Diamondbacks, it looks like, have signed Zach Greinke to a deal, stealing them from their division rival. The second giant pitching signing this week behind the Red Sox grabbing David Price in what I think is a terrible deal. They're going to end up having him till he's 38, and you know what pitchers are after 35, especially in the AL East. I think they're going to get killed in that deal. I think it's going to be just garbage for them. It's going to be 30, 40, 60, 70, $900 million, it feels like, down the drain after the time he hits 35. But let's talk about the Greinke signing real quick. Is this a good move by the Diamondbacks? Is this one of those, look, it's baseball, anybody can be in contention at any time moves?
It's one of those moves that, hey, you could say that we made a big splash, and so it looks like we're trying to become a contender. But really, what is Arizona going to do? What else do they have? He's not going to. You can't get there on just one guy's arm. All these guys, all these super pitchers that are making north of $200 million, how many of them are getting their team to the World Series? Really? Kansas City.
Well, but so that's the interesting thing, though, right? So what you did here was, in addition to making sure you now have a frontline legitimate ace, you stole him from a division rival, which already had big pitching issues. It had Clayton Kershaw, it had Zach Greinke, and it had nobody else, right? And now,
but remember they had Ryu. Ryu was hurt last year, so that's a big blow for them. The Dodgers had a luxury of having 3 top-notch level pitchers as their 1, 2, and 3. All of those guys would be a number 1 on any other team that they pitch on, at least.
Right.
Greinke. Greinke's already up in age too. That's the other thing. You're at this point you're paying for past production. You're not paying for future. Why are you gonna pay that much money for a pitcher that's north of 30?
No, I agree with you, but that's a huge blow to the Dodgers, right? Because they already had big pitching problems, and I think they thought they were going to waltz in, and this was going to be a guarantee that they were going to get this guy this year. And now it turns out not only are they not going to get him, but he goes within the division. And the D-backs, they're going to add another starter. There's a couple good veterans out there. They've got young guys. Archie Bradley's there if his health stands up. This is a very interesting team that suddenly, what's Greinke good for? You think another 17, 18 wins and another 22 to 27 quality starts. And God, if he repeats, last year, what do you have, like 33 quality starts? This is a big deal. I don't think it's necessarily a good deal, but it's only a 6-year deal that's being reported. I haven't seen the actual deal yet. So I wonder if this is one of those opt-out after 3 years, which is David Price has that 2018 opt-out, which seems to be very popular with the pitchers again. But if you're 35 years old, are you opting out of a $30 million a year deal anymore?
No, not unless you need to be checked for insanity. Because I don't think their contracts are going to really escalate to that point. Not especially not for a pitcher north of 30. Like, none of these guys are knuckleballers.
Right.
They're, they're somewhat finesse pitchers with a little bit of power, but you're going to lose that after time. But I just don't see it. Now, let me ask you, who would you rather have? Would you rather have Greinke or Price?
That's a very interesting question. Would I rather have Greinke or Price? That's one of those. I think in the long run, I want Greinke, if only because I believe that when his power goes, he stays. I think he's a guy who's going to learn how to pitch, who really is going to, be able to make in those, as you just mentioned, not a knuckleballer, but when David Price's stuff goes, is he going to learn really how to pitch versus how to blow everybody away, or is he going to pull the Justin Verlander? Verlander's, arm goes, and now he's sitting on, 4.5 and change ERA. Is that Price? Plus, I got to tell you, I'd rather have either of them in the NL West versus the AL East.
Yeah, most definitely.
Well, a lot of other things happening in sports this week, and it's going to be an expedited week in review. We're usually here for about an hour. This week's is a half hour. As you'll notice, I am suited up. It is the company holiday party this evening, and our guys do it right. Last year was a little mini fillets, top shelf liquor. They're paying for Uber. They're paying for Lyft. So, you know what? While I love everybody and I want to hang out with everybody, not so much Brandon, but I like everybody else. It is most certainly time to, head to the holiday party and make sure that I get to enjoy all the goodies. Enjoying the goodies is really not what the NFL has done this last week. This is a league, whether or not it realizes it yet, but there is a crisis. You don't know what a catch is. You don't know what a face mask is. I don't know what a tackle is. The movie Concussion is coming out. What is the NFL going to do if suddenly people start questioning the legitimacy of the league? Aaron Rodgers won the game last night for the Packers on, let's agree that the Lions defense was awful, right? But, they thought there was a lateral play instead of a Hail Mary play. It should have been a lateral. Nobody's running, a 67-yard lateral and actually thinking that's working. Bad coaching. But take that out of this, out of the discussion. Aaron Rodgers, that game should be over. The rule states if you touch the face mask and withdraw your hand, that's not a penalty. If you grab and you twist and you turn and you pull, that's a penalty. His fingers went up. They tapped the face mask. He pulled back. That game's over. There should not be another play for Green Bay. And this is the third or fourth time in the last 3 weeks we've seen a timing issue, a late game call that's questionable. And the Patriots game, the hit on Brady was ridiculous. What is the NFL going to do when you stop trusting in the legitimacy of the game itself? Because, it's coming.
Yeah, and this is what I think is going to end up being the downfall of Roger Goodell. Through everything else and all the money that he's making the league, it's really hard for him he has no credibility. He has no badge of honor that he has no badge of honor that he can stand on, that people will allow the league to kind of skate by anymore. He's running out of excuses. And, I mean, better save all that money because unemployment ain't going to pay you nothing like you get now, Roger.
Right. Well, nobody else is paying him $40 million a year. But not only does he not have a badge of honor, now he's stacking issues. So it's not just, we had one problem. So now he's got the concussion problem. He's going to have a CBA issue. He's got players that don't trust him. The suspension and the penalization of players is a disaster. They're not doing the same thing equivalent against teams that are causing problems. And they're coming out every single week acknowledging there's a big officials error. So at some point, the league has to get this right. There have been calls for full-time officials. I don't know that solves the problem. I think what they need to do is take a look at the rule book. It's like the IRS tax code. Rule number 743.6b says you can tackle the guy, but rule number 76432.c says you can't tackle the guy. And the officials, they don't know what to call. This has to be changed. They need to go through the rule book all off season because nothing you're going to do about it now. And they need to rip page after page after page after page of it. The invention of HD cameras was not meant to change the game. It was meant to help in replay and make the game better. You can't judge every single play. It's a catch. It's a not catch. He was in. He was out. By this much in real time, the way they are doing it, and still put a good product on the field.
Well, the one issue I see with it, and as someone that was interested in, I thought about becoming a referee myself, and then I thought maybe with my temperament that might not work too well. But it is a lot of stuff that they have to learn and to process in a very snap judgment point of time. But the other thing that we as people have to remember, we have the luxury and the benefit of so much new technology, whereas when you're in the moment, you're that referee, depending on, and this is the first thing that they tell you for any sport, refereeing or umpiring, is that the calls are all based on angle and judgment. So when we're watching it up on the Jumbotron, that's 3080 HD,
right?
It's very different, and they've got the whole camera on a string, so they've got so many different angles versus Joe Smith, who this is his third NFL game, and the dude's already nervous, and he's got to make a call on something that maybe he didn't get the right angle and whatnot. The only way that I think that they're really going to be able to fix this is to be able to inherit more of the camera angles and things into the plays, and they're going to have to add more referees, at least for football.
But I don't even need more referees on the field. I'm not sure that helps cause. I think you have to change the rules, right? What's a catch? What is a tackle? Where can they hit guys? Brady's upset that Gronk's being hit low, but you can't hit him high. Where do you hit a guy who's 6'7"? You can't hit him in the midsection. He doesn't go anywhere. He's ginormous. It's like taking down, David and Goliath when you're out there. You got a cornerback against Gronk. You got no shot. So where are these guys going to put the rules? Where can you hit? In baseball, the strike zone started here and went to here and went to here and went to here. And if you don't pretty much put it somewhere between the mid-thigh and the belt now, which is insane, that's a ball.
Well, so who do you think should be in charge of because the way that I see the NFL fixing all of this is that you take down Roger Goodell, you don't have one face. You got to have like a board. And the board of trustees or whoever of the NFL for the dexterity and the truthfulness of the sport. So you have a legend, you have a legendary coach, legendary player, somebody that maybe was a great coordinator or something like that, whatever, yada yada.
Well, and that's why they have the competition committee, right? So why can't the coaches come in and say, you know what, we're all going in, we got coaches, we got GMs, we got former players on the competition committee. Why can't they say, you know what, we're taking over the rule book. We're going to get some ex-officials. We're going to get guys who are still on the field. We're going to get guys we really respect. And we're absolutely going to change the way the game is officiated. We're going to make sure it makes sense. Because when you're a fan watching and your guy has the ball, right? He's got two hands on the ball. He's got it here. He gets two toes in. And as he falls to the ground, the ball bobbles about this much, right? And so a little bit in his hands. It doesn't hit the ground. It doesn't fall out of his hands. That has to be a catch. It has to fall under if it looks like a catch and the ball does not hit the ground, it's a catch. If you bobbled a little because a guy came running across the field for 40 yards, slammed into you as you were up in the air, and the ball goes like this a little bit while both your hands are still around it and you fall on your back, that has to be called a catch. If you're diving...
Okay, now let me ask you this. Okay, say they have all the coaches in on this, and say they ask a few legends. Say they ask, let's say, Jerry Rice to be for his special input on this.
Sure.
Now, Jerry, I think we can all say that Jerry Rice is probably one of the top 5 people that we could think of that should know what a catch is.
Absolutely.
So what if it comes down to it and Jerry Rice is saying he thinks it should be this way and the coaches are saying it should be something else?
I don't care who says it. Let's get an agreement, right? Let's get an understanding so that everybody goes into the 2016 season saying we know what a catch is. When you have guys like Calvin Johnson, surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, saying, I don't know if I caught the ball. When you got guys like Des Bryant, who is a phenomenal athlete, one of the best in the game. I don't like him because he's on the Cowboys, and here at Fanzeal, one of the beauties of that is we connect fans with our own athletes, and we get to like people. We don't have to pretend to be over here in the press box where we don't like people. I don't like the Cowboys. I'm going to continue not liking the Cowboys. That's why I'm glad I get to work for Fanzeal. And, you can not like the Cowboys over at fanzeal.com or send us many notes about not liking the Cowboys. I'm going to be very popular here in a minute in Dallas. But when Des Bryant doesn't know what to catch, when Calvin Johnson doesn't know what to catch, when coaches don't know what to catch, and Mike McCarthy was out there a couple weeks ago. It was a Randall Cobb situation. Randall has it on the sidelines. He bobbles. He catches it before he comes down. But they said as he was going out of bounds, he didn't have it, even though he had it when he caught it. He had it when his feet touched the ground. He loses it a little bit as he's falling. He hits the ground, and he catches it back. Not a catch because when he crossed it was what?
Yeah,
we don't know what the rules are anymore.
Yeah.
What was the hit last week on Osweiler? I think it was. He's a huge guy. He ducks, right? Linebacker comes in, hits him, hit to the head. If your guy ducks, it's no longer the linebacker's fault that his head came down here. The linebacker was trying to come in here. If he comes down here, that's not the linebacker's fault. Yes, we want to avoid concussions. Yes, we're trying to avoid helmet to helmet. But you can't sit there and tell me that these guys who are running, and folks, I got to tell you, if you're listening, as you're watching, if you've never been on the field at an NFL game, if you've only watched from TV or you've watched from the 300 or the 400 level of the stadium, not saying you enjoy the game any less, I'm saying you have no comprehension about how fast these guys are until you stand on the same level they are at and watch these guys move. They move so fast that even the world's best athletes, they simply can't stop their bodies. You can't be running the equivalent of 20, 22 miles an hour at full speed, and in the time it takes for a quarterback to throw the ball while you're here, stop yourself. It's impossible.
Yeah, and not when you got guys that, you got guys that are out there, these lean machine receivers, and then you've got these huge linebackers that are, coming after them, and they're all, and the thing is, they're all playing the angles, so they're going to hit these angles just right, so they know that they're going to hit them, and the point of impact is going to be ridiculous, and you can't stop it. You can't go around, or you have no time to think. So yeah, there's a lot that needs to be changed, and you got to, the first thing you got to do, you got to have the committee somebody has to be in place, but this can't be a Goodell thing.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, because he has no credibility, he has nothing to stand on, and really, no one would give it any due.
Well, all right, we're gonna switch gears here a little bit. Thanks for joining the Fanzeal Weekend Review. Check us out at fanzeal.com. Tweet us over at Fanzeal. Getting his due, Kobe Bryant has announced he's retiring. He put out the thing in the Players Tribune, which is Jeter's site. He wrote the letter to Lakers fans, which they put out there as though it was spontaneous. So spontaneous that, as Deadspin pointed out, they spent weeks trying to figure out the logo that would go on it for his new hero villain line or whatever this marketing campaign is going to be. But I think the favorite story I've had that's come out of here is he played 20 minutes in the first half not too long ago, and Byron Scott, who is doing an awful job as a coach for the Lakers, just brutal job. You're a young team with no intention of winning. You're trying to have some respectability as Kobe goes out. You don't want to get any lower in the draft than you are because you have a top 3 protected pick, and after that it goes to the Sixers. So there's no reason to win more games, but yet they're not trying it all to develop the young kids. We'll get on to Byron Scott in a while because I think he used to be a good coach, and I'm not sure what happened, but he is currently in the Chip Kelly school of unwavering nonsense. But so Kobe turns to him, and when Byron Scott says, we're going to cut your minutes here in the second half, Kobe says, yeah, it doesn't really matter because I'm retiring. That said, LA is losing. The NBA is losing. California is losing. And historians are going to recognize at some point we are losing a guy who needs to be in the discussion of top 10 players and has to be on that list and needs to be in the discussion of top 5 players. Now, I don't take Kobe above Jordan. I don't take Kobe above Bill Russell. Again, different players, but Bill Russell was just a whole different thing. And I probably I'm a toss-up in the Bird, Magic, Kobe, Duncan camp. But look, 5 rings. God knows how many All-Star games, MVP awards, MVP All-Stars. This is one of the great players of our time.
Well, and I've been having this debate with a lot of different people this week, and I've come to realize when you got to find a place for Kobe to place his greatness amongst other players, you can't measure it in statistics and championships, things like that. First of all, nobody's going to catch Bill Russell for championships. Plain and simple. Different era, different time, different rules, different guys.
Although you have to wonder how close would Jordan's and Bulls have gotten without the 2 years of the minor league baseball situation.
They weren't winning. They would have got maybe 4 straight. I don't think they would have
winning
5.
8. You don't think they're winning 8 in a row? They got 3 and 3 with the 2 Houston in the middle.
Dude, that 2 year there's a reason why no other team has won more than 3 in a row, aside from the old Celtics.
All right, so we'll take that discussion. But let's talk about Kobe. Obvious first ballot Hall of Famer. Obvious retired number. I think they retired both 8 and 24.
Yes, I think he's the first one to go up there that has 2 numbers retired, and that's what's going to be what sets him apart as far as here locally. The other thing that I was going to say with Kobe, and because people like to bring up Kobe, Duncan, Shaq, because they all played in the same era.
Right.
One thing that sets him apart, you have to look at what kind of mark did they leave on the universe of sports. Like, Duncan's a great player and he's a legend, but Kobe is an icon. I mean, people either love him or hate the guy. Look at his numbers overseas, dude. It's ridiculous. He could run for president and against Manny Pacquiao and win in a landslide. That it really is that ridiculous as far as the impact that he's had on sports globally. And now not quite the same as Jordan, but he basically took the mantle from him. And he also came up in an era where there were a bunch of different guys that were supposed to be the next Jordan. There was the Grant Hills, the Iversons, Vince Carter, McGrady,
Harold
Ray
Miner.
Allen. Huh?
Harold Miner.
I mean, dude, we could name at least a dozen guys that they said were going to be the next or the closest thing to Jordan. And Kobe really is it. And everyone's going to have, it's 1 and 1A, whatever. But the league is going to miss him. And it's sad to see that people are trying to piggyback on what they're seeing now. The dude is old. He's played the equivalent of 23 years in the NBA.
Look, obviously. I'm just glad he's not in somebody else's jersey. I'm glad we're not seeing him in like a Utah Jazz jersey to close out his career, because that would just be terrible. But I agree with you that people are looking at what he's doing now in the last couple of years. I do think once we get away from this a little bit, and once we, a year or two goes by and we start rolling out more of the Kobe retrospectives, and we start looking back at 5, 6, 10 years of what he really did during those early 2000s runs, and what he really did, as a youngster when he's in the league as, right out of high school, and, comes in and thankfully never ended up on the Charlotte Hornets, because who knows how that would have gone. But,
Thanks,
I think that, right.
That was the best move. That's Vlade's greatest moment as a Laker.
Right, was being traded for Kobe, for sure. So I think he is going to get his due. I think you're looking at obviously. I mean, look, he's already getting his due. I do like that he's asked not to go with the whole Jeter situation and get feted at every corner and every turn at every place. Some places are going to do it anyway because it's really, really good for ticket sales. Right? We're going to do a big thing with Kobe. Come see it, because we're the Milwaukee Bucks and there's no other reason to come see the show. But for the most part, they're going to let him go out on his own terms. And I just hope he gets through the season. If Byron Scott keeps playing him the way he's going, there's no shot he gets to the season. It really be nice to see Kobe walk out on his own after 82 games because they're not going to make the playoffs. This is it, right? And I think that you're going to see a lot of people in Los Angeles not really know what to do with the Lakers. They're not the restart after an icon is tough. The restart after a legend is tough. But the restart after both of those things, when the memory of the guy being as good as he is are still fresh, I don't know that D'Angelo Russell's the guy. I don't think Jordan Clarkson is, and I don't, it's too early to tell.
Well, there's a few things that can actually go in the Lakers' favor. One, if they keep playing the way that they are, first of all, we know Kobe's not going to make it through the whole season if they keep continuing to play the man 30 minutes plus a night. It's just not going to happen. If they can dole it down to get him to playing 20 minutes a night, and he can play, 10 minutes first half and then 10 minutes of Kobe ball in the second half, that's just enough for them to keep losing. But they've got to develop the young guys that they have. Julius Randle had 19 rebounds the other night. 19 boards for a dude that's technically still a rookie.
Right.
That's pretty good. Russell Kidd is coming along. Clarkson's a nice player, but this dude's going to be a free agent pretty soon. And they're going to have to pay this dude $22 million. Like, that's a lot of money to pay a dude in his first year. The one thing that's leaning in the Lakers' favor, though, if they keep losing, hey, then they can get the kid out of LSU.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned LSU because I do want to take a step back and one more thing. We got about 5 minutes left here in this Friday Fanzeal Sports Weekend Review Blab. Once again, that's Brandon Boykin. I'm Justin Simon. We appreciate you hanging out with us. All of the videos on this, interviews with athletes, are going to be over at the Fanzeal YouTube page. So check that out, YouTube at Fanzeal Sports. I want to tease a little bit because I got word from some of our producers earlier today, just a little tease. But it does look like we are going to have a couple world champion Kansas City Royals joining us here in a couple weeks for the Fanzeal Blab. We'll be able to talk about the ride that they went on, what it was like after losing in that heartbreaking Game 7 of the Giants to come back and determine they are going to win and the season they put together. So one of the great things about Fanzeal is it connects you with the athletes you love, and we'll be taking all kinds of questions from fans before we get these Royals on. We're not going to mention names yet until it's a done deal, but the guys that are going to be playing played a major, major role in the season. They played a major role in the playoffs and really, really big moments in the World Series. So that's going to be a lot of fun. One of the things, Brandon, we do have coming up this week. We got some audio issues popping in somewhere. I'm not sure where that's coming from. College football. Big college football weekend. It's going to make or break the season. You got Alabama hosting Florida in the SEC, which is obviously the winner. If Alabama wins, they're they're in the Final Four. You got Stanford at number 7 versus USC. They're actually not out of it, depending how things break down. Clemson hosting number 8 North Carolina. They win. And obviously Clemson's in because they're the number 1 seed. If they lose, that becomes a very interesting situation. Then the game I think that most people are wondering how this is going to end up, and certainly in my household is my significant other is a Michigan State girl and has a whole family of Staties. Is this Iowa, undefeated Iowa and Michigan State game? I think this is really, really interesting game. Michigan State had some wins they shouldn't have had, that loss that maybe they shouldn't have lost. And Iowa, I don't want to say out of nowhere because it's a good program and a good team, but undefeated. One of these two is going to be in the Final Four. Who do you think wins the game, and who do you think puts up a bigger challenge as a legitimate national title contender?
Michigan State, in my opinion, is going to put up the best fight against anybody else in that top 3. Michigan State, they're coached really well. Iowa's just this is going to be one of those old knockdown, drag out, grind it out games.
Right.
Iowa is like they just breed their front line and they're riding these dudes. I mean, dude, they're churning linemen in and out of that school like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's gonna I don't think they're going to throw it around too much. They're going to get behind the big boys and go up the gut. And but I think Michigan State, I got to give them the edge.
Well, look, they beat Oregon when Oregon everybody thought was a really, really good team.
Yes.
They escaped the Michigan game. And look, don't sleep on Michigan. That was a much better team than people thought. Jim Harbaugh made a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Had they lose that game, which realistically they should have, but had they lost that game, they're not even in the discussion. They beat Ohio State, and again, not a pretty game, but a win's a win. And when you beat a team that many people thought would be the national champion again, that's a big win. And their loss was a 39-38 clunker to Nebraska. And, look, that's going to happen from time to time. It was at Nebraska, ugly. But I still think they're the better team. Part of it, I think, is because Iowa's one of those teams that it's just hard to get a read on whether or not they're for real. And, of course, that sounds crazy to say when you're talking about a team that went undefeated, that's, in the Big Ten, that had to play some really, really good teams, and they beat them all. But there's something about Iowa that I can't – I'm just having problems saying, yep, these guys are that good.
Well, it's because they play ugly. And it's really hard for people to get behind a team that plays ugly because most people just don't have faith in it. People like the flash. They like to see, how many points you're going to put up on them. And, a lot of athletic and, crazy athletic defensive plays. And, Iowa, they're going to run through you. They're not trying to run around you and dance around. They're just going to hit you and run right through you.
Yeah,
and it's a grind-out game.
Right. Like if you look at the Big Ten teams they had to play this year, and again, you can only play who's on your schedule. But, they beat Wisconsin. They beat Illinois. They beat Northwestern. They beat Indiana. They beat Minnesota. They beat Purdue, Nebraska. These aren't teams that really excite you. You're not playing the Ohio States, the Michigans. And again, no. Wisconsin generally is in that discussion, but they lost that game 10-6.
Wisconsin's always solid.
Yeah, so I just it's hard for me to put Iowa State in that or Iowa in that discussion. But I'll tell you, if they do, you don't want to sleep on the Big Ten because they proved last year they have a legitimate they can win this thing. Now, would I take Alabama over Iowa? Yep. Would I take Clemson over Iowa? Yep. Would I take, even if Stanford pops in and somehow sneaks in some bizarro, Pac-10 situation or Pac-12 situation as it is, would I take them? I think so.
Stanford, Iowa would actually be a very good game.
Could be.
I think that would be an excellent game. That would be fun to watch.
Well, so Clemson wins and they're in. Alabama wins and they're in, right? We know those. That's pretty much a given. Oklahoma Sooners are number 3. I think this is the situation where they get killed every year, or the Big 12 keeps getting killed until they figure out, what they're going to do about a Big 12 championship game. But if the committee does this again and drops a Big 12 team out of it simply because there's no championship game, that's nonsense. So it really comes down to this Big 10 matchup, the Iowa-Michigan State matchup. And interestingly enough, you got the number 4 Iowa, number 5 Michigan State, number 6 Ohio State. In order for Ohio State to sneak back in, Michigan State's got to win. And then, either Clemson or Alabama has to lose. And even I'm not sure that does it. But, could be interesting. You really have 7 teams that are still alive. I'm counting out North Carolina unless they absolutely crush Clemson. I mean, they got to go in there and beat those guys by 40 to even, in the ACC title game, to even have that be a discussion. And I don't think there's anybody in the country, including the people in North Carolina's locker room, who think they're going to beat those guys by 40.
No.
All right. So your 4 picks for the Final Four in college football as we go in. I'll give you mine first. I'm going to say it's going to be Clemson. I'm going to say it's Alabama. I'm going to take Oklahoma Sooners. And I'm going to go with Michigan State because I don't like being punched in my sleep. And, even if Iowa was the better team, when you live with a Sparty, you make those choices because, well, our vote doesn't count, yet my home life does.
Well, I'm going to we basically have the same picks. I'm going Alabama, Oklahoma, Michigan State, and Clemson.
All right. Well, it's going to be an interesting weekend in college football. Interesting weekend in pro football. Very, very interesting weekend that has started in baseball in the hot stove. We may have an answer, by the way, in the next couple of weeks as to what the next team in Los Angeles for the NFL will be, because one is coming. We don't know if they're coming this year or next. So, usually you hit this December kind of grind and you don't really know what you're getting. I mean, it's late in the NFL season, the college football season, you generally get something in hockey, but it's really shaping up that the 2016 or 2015 as it is, I'm already jumping ahead of you, that 2015 is going to end on a really, really high sports note. So we'll be there, Brandon Boykin and Justin Simon for Fanzeal. We'll be there over the next few weeks. Join us, shoot us a note, come hang out with us on Twitter at Fanzeal. Go over to fanzeal.com, sign up for the Zeal, the funniest newsletter in sports. And we really appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll be here next week. And let's go Clemson. Let's go Sparty. I don't know. I just can't go for Alabama. I mean, I know they're going to win. I can't go for Alabama. All right, everyone. Thanks. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.